When Death Comes by Mary Oliver. When death comes like the hungry bear in autumn, when death comes and takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me and snaps his purse shut, when death comes like the measle-pox, when death comes like an iceberg between the shoulder blades. I want to step through the door full of curiosity, wondering what is it going to be like, the cottage of darkness. And therefore I look upon everything as a brotherhood and a sisterhood, and I look upon time as no more than an idea, and I consider eternity as another possibility. And I think of each life as a flower, as common as a field daisy, and as singular, and each name a comfortable music in the mouth, tending, as all music does, towards silence. When it's over, I want to say, to all of my life, I was a bride married to amazement. I was a bridegroom, taking the world into my arms. When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I have made of my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened or full of argument. I don't want to end up simply having visited this world. Welcome to the Poetry Oracle Podcast. As promised, I am offering the late, great Mary Oliver, who recently passed away, with her thoughts on dying, or perhaps really, on living. She begins by imagining that day we all face as part of our lives, our last day with at least our physical bodies, and the coldness of being purchased by death, the potential pain of it, pox-like, or as an iceberg between the shoulder blades. She honors the darkness of death with her own soul and captured it as well in mind. She then moves into what she hopes to do, to welcome it with a sense of adventure, while not knowing, and nobody has ever been able to convince me of what happens after we die, with a curious openness. She honors the single miracle of each and every human, all different since the beginning of time, and all common humans at the same time. She honors us all as part of the earth, essential, and that we share at least two things in common, being born and dying. I am reminded of the story of the forgetting tree that I was told by a Zulu warrior in South Africa many decades ago. He said in this story that your soul chooses what it wants to experience before it comes down into your body, but right before it does that, it passes the forgetting tree and forgets all that it chose. That story has lived with me ever since. So I am then often asked, after telling it, if I believe in reincarnation. I don't have to believe in anything. I just really like the story as a lens to see everyone in the world and to see myself. So, perhaps the Dalai Lama is getting his PhD, and Donald Trump is in kindergarten, and I'm in the 7th grade. And perhaps I was a Trump a long time ago myself, and one day I'll be a Dalai Lama. In that story, I cannot feel guilt or shame for the life I have led, for I chose it, and perhaps this soul of mine knows what it needs to experience to grow. Oliver prays she leaves the world being grateful for her life. She uses Jalaluddin Rumi's and Hafiz's common metaphor, the bride and the bridegroom. In her case, a bride married to a sense of amazement, of wonder, and also a bridegroom, taking the world lovingly into her arms. Finally, Oliver hopes she has lived a life filled with gusto, depth, and width, not on the surface of life, not half dead or half alive. Not just a visitor, but one who was one with her life that she was given. For me, this is a kind of challenge and a tall order at the same time, for she is asking at least me to say a resounding yes to all my life, without anger, regret, shame, nor guilt. To say yes to myself, to all that I was in the world, and all that I was not. For, in the end, most of us leave, and as the vestiges of time move forward, flowing downstream, our name, our remembrance, fades away. Only a select few of us remain throughout history: spiritual greats, heroes and heroines, political and social justice pioneers, yet also the dark villains and the horrifically evil ones, too. And I think of the artists, the poets, the authors who leave behind their creativities to be housed on a wall in a library, and when we see their works or their stories, regardless of time, we are inspired, awed, amazed, our hearts touched. Somehow these folks remain in our stories and the collective unconscious of humankind. Perhaps there is a part of us, I think it was true for me, where we want to be one of those immortal ones. But this go round, it does not look like that will be the case for me. I will not be a Van Gogh, or Buddha, nor Hitler, or Jack the Ripper, nor Mary Oliver. Nope, not this time, but it's all right, if I can just be happy and content living fully the life I was given, and maybe, just maybe, progressing to the 8th grade. Deep bow until next time. About Mary Oliver. Mary Oliver won a Pulitzer Prize for her poetry. Why she was never a poet laureate is beyond me. Perhaps being a woman and a lesbian in America. I don't know. I'm just guessing here. She was photographer Mary Malone Cook's partner for over 40 years, and they lived together in New England, where many of her poems are set. She chose a cloistered and private life, believing her words and her poems spoke what she wanted to say. She is the best-selling poet ever in the United States, and well-received around the world. She is an American gem, and I know, and indicative on a good bit of my poetry bookshelf, she will never be forgotten. P.S. After reviewing the audio of this podcast, I noticed sounds in the background and thought of redoing the whole thing. But then I realized what the sounds were of my dog chewing a bone, an antler from a deer from a long time ago. Perhaps an interesting metaphor for today's poem. Again, deep bow until next time.